What happened to the characters after episode 9? Is this the human version of Queenie? And does this deleted scene confirm that there will be a season 2 of the amazing digital circus? This time, we bring you all the extra content of the digital circus that only a few know about. The alternate ending Gooseworks revealed the ending of the digital circus to us a long time ago, and nobody noticed. Do you remember the flashback scene of Jax's human life? In this flashback to his past life, we saw scenes of Jax running away from his home, driving down a road, and at one point sleeping on a street. But the most surprising thing is that that was not all that this scene would have, and we have found the missing part that surely many of you never noticed. And to understand this, we have to analyze Gooseworks' account a bit, because the creator posted a quite curious video with the text, "Sleeping in an alley, wish me luck." Many thought that this had nothing to do with any of the episodes of the amazing digital circus. But after analyzing it, we could realize that that alley is exactly the same one that appears in Jax's flashback. Besides, some simply assumed that it was an old video of Gooseworks when she was not yet part of the glitch team, since, in case you did not know, she also went through very difficult situations. With this, we can conclude that Jax's flashback scene has a special meaning, since Gooseworks has said many times that she identifies too much with the character, so it would not be strange if she also included that difficult part of her life. But this post could also have meant the way she was secretly teasing the ending of episode 9 long before it came out. Or, what do you guys think? What happened after episode 9? I know that many were left with the question of what happened after the end of the digital circus. Did the characters simply accept what they were, and were they happy? In fact, friends, our next group of scenes reveals to us what happened after the finale with each of the characters. These scenes were directly revealed by Glitch. First, we have Jax with Pomni. As we know, from the beginning we knew that those two would be good friends, although of course Jax did not like that idea very much. And in this image, we see Pomni and Jax in a scene very similar to what we saw in episode 9. But on this occasion, we see that Pomni prepared a picnic next to Jax to be able to eat next to him. This confirms the great friendship of these two characters, aside from the fact that this image was accompanied by the text "together, no matter what." Seriously, how beautiful friends. Despite everything that Jax was, Pomni never stayed away from him. And with this, they assure us that they remained very close after the end of the show. And of course, Pomni did not care that Jax was an abstracted being. The next on the list are Gangle and Zooble. Let's see, of these two characters, there were a lot of theories about their relationship, but with this image, they reveal a quite interesting detail of their bond. We see the two of them, side by side, looking at the stars outside the digital circus tent. But because of everything they showed us in episode 9, specifically a scene that hinted that something else was happening between these two characters. And in case you didn't notice, I mean the moment during the end credits where Gangle's door is seen open, while hearts come out of Zooble's door. Quite suspicious, don't you think? With this, I can only think that a ribbon and a Lego were trying to have a digital child. By the way, do you remember what Zooble said? "When are you going to let us have sex?" But leaving aside the relationship of Zooble and Gangle, they also showed us how the relationship of Pomni and Ragatha ended up after the finale. From the beginning, they seemed to be very good friends, and during the beginning of episode 9, the two had already shown themselves to be much closer than before. But in this next image, we can see that their relationship became even more special, since they appeared drinking hot chocolate together in the digital circus cafeteria. And this has a very cute reference, since it is the same activity that Kaufmo, Ribbit, and Jax used to do when they were the best friends of the circus. So yes, Pomni and Ragatha have already reached that level of friendship. The cutest thing is that this post was accompanied by the text. They have been talking for hours about music. This shows that after the end of the digital circus, Pomni and Ragatha stayed connected as good friends. But you know what the even more interesting detail is if you pay attention to each of the mugs. We see how Pomni is holding the mug that Jax used as a gesture of affection towards him, while Ragatha holds Kaufmo's mug. Oh friends, right in the chicken heart. And we arrive at the last character, Kinger. From the first chapter, we knew that Kinger was a character that was quite difficult to understand. And now the question we still needed to resolve is, what happened to Kinger after the end of the digital circus? He was the only character who did not receive a specific image showing his fate. And although Glitch never officially published anything that answered this question, guess what? We do know the answer. It turns out that some fans of the show were pointing out that Kinger's fate at the end of the episode was not as clear as the other characters. This is because he no longer had the bucket on his head that made him someone more coherent. And well friends, in fact, they did tell us Kinger's fate in a specific scene of the finale, because we see Kinger putting pepper on his plate and not on the mashed potatoes. In addition, his fork is stuck in the table, which suggests that he probably returned to his state of dementia. With this, it is quite clear to us that he returned to his old strange behaviors. So probably, he could not have one of the happiest endings like his other companions. But I ask myself, why on earth don't they give him some sunglasses and that's it? I believe that in his state of dementia, he is happier than being aware, knowing that he will never be able to get out. And did you notice that Jax, Ribbit, and Kaufmo eventually got back together as the great friends they are? The secret conversation between Kane and Bubble. A lot was being said about a supposed alternate ending for episode 9. But that is not the most important thing that this supposed leak revealed to us, because in fact, it turns out that we were also shown a conversation between Kane and Bubble that we never saw in episode 9. Right at the end, we get a scene in which we see the digital circus tent moving away, but in this alternate version, instead of the tent cutting off, it keeps moving away and we see Kane and Bubble together. The crazy thing is that Kane mentions that the members of the circus seem to be happier now. And Bubble just replies with his usual incoherent questions. But after that, we hear Kane say something very important. He says that something bad is happening with the human versions of the characters. Right after that, the scene zooms out again, finally leading to the end of the chapter. Could it be that this was the true ending of the digital circus? Many speculate that it could not be true, since Bubble was definitely deleted. But Gooseworks herself said that being deleted does not mean being dead, but simply that he was sent to another place in the void. Leave your conclusion in the comments. The human version of Queenie. These next scenes definitely did not appear anywhere in episode 9, and they are several extra scenes of the human versions of the characters. But that is not the most important point, but rather that within these scenes we could see a secret character that they did not show us in the movie either. They were taken from a recorded behind the scenes, nothing more and nothing less than by the human version of Jax. In this video, we can see several of the human versions of the characters like Ragatha, Pomni, Gangle, and Zubul. And of course, they appeared in the same location that they showed us in the finale. But aside from all these secrets, they also showed us other locations. For example, we had a scene with the characters inside Zubul's bar. We also had other behind-the-scenes shots of some of the characters while they were doing the segment for the social media posts. In fact, in one we can see the human version of Jax wearing his delivery uniform. But the most impressive secret that this behind-the-scenes session revealed to us was a scene with a character that is shown to us much less than the others. And of course, I am referring to the human version of Queenie. We can see her hugging a Queenie plushie, the mysterious short. The next scene was about the idea of what happened after this ending. It was a specific scene which supposedly was leftover material from episode 9 or part of completely new content that was never used. The interesting thing about all this is that it was assumed that there was the possibility that the creator was interested in making shorts of the digital circus. But we never knew exactly if these supposed shorts would happen before or after the end of the digital circus. This extra content begins with an image of Pomni interacting with an evil Jax. And well, after so many things that supposedly were leaks and turned out to be false, how can we be sure if this image really is from Gooseworks content? Well friends, to clarify this, what we are sure of is that the content is not part of excluded content from episode 9. Since in the image Kinger's fort is shown to us, but it does not match the one shown to us in episode 9 after Jax's abstraction. But what do you guys think? Do you believe that this scene is legitimate from Gooseworks?